Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 669 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Thom Gelardi. And if you want to hear about the founder of Sherman College of Chiropractic and hear his story, stay tuned for the full episode.
Something like that.
Yeah, welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have Dr. Thom Gelardi on with me. I'm really excited for this show because Thom was the founder of Sherman College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to talk about today, promoting the profession, talking about his story. We're going to touch on some things like identity in chiropractic, and I am really curious about his take on chiropractic in kids and his big why of starting Sherman and where they are today. But before we jump into his story and those topics, I want to let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. As we know, the past couple of years have been really challenging for people to get the word out about things that matter. So we've never censored anyone, and we never will. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled and shadow banned and censored, and we would never do that to you. And we believe the chiropractic message really matters. Secondly, we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you need guidance on those topics, please find a chiropractor in your city or your neighborhood. Philosophically speaking, we do protect B.J. Palmer's last written words, the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go and find our show notes, and you can find what the sacred trust is. And you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did before that, I guarantee you. And then as we follow up with the last part of our introduction and why we do what we do, we believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. We believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence and educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, which transcends to the educated intelligence. And with that, Dr. Thom Gelardi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, I told you the opener was really big. It's like a bold statement, what we do, but I think it's really important for people to hear that. Wouldn't you think? Very
definitely. It's also something very specific.
Yeah.
A contribution.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing we can do with our time. I being a part of the Sherman family, I know that's really important for people to give their time, talent, and treasure. So with our interviews, we really give our time and our talent and our treasure to the world for what you guys are doing out there.
Appreciate much what you do.
Yeah, so let's jump into your story. I know you were like, hey, we don't really need to talk about this, but I was like, yeah, we do, because the world needs to know who Thom Gelardi is and why he does what he does and how he got to where he is today. So let's just share a little snapshot about who you are for the audience to kind of understand why I'm so excited for today's interview. To just share your story a little bit.
Okay. I started out with a lot of sickness in life myself. And I spent my first 8 birthdays in the hospital. My birthday's in April. And it seemed like every April, time of my birthday, I'd be back in the hospital. Sometimes a week, sometimes several weeks. One time I went, included in that 8 years, was a 2.5-year stay I was 6 months in one hospital, and they transferred me to another one where I spent 2 years. And I hadn't put my feet on the floor for 2.5 years. So, and I was 8 years old before when I went home from the hospital. I wasn't supposed to climb any stairs. I didn't do that till I was over 12. And a special bus picked me up and take me to school. And so it's a great amount. I didn't suffer much with pain. I just had a heart murmur, and there was no heart surgery at that time, fortunately for me, because I outgrew it with the help of chiropractic and the medics in the beginning. But it cripples you in a lot of ways when you don't play ball as a kid and no one wants you on the ball team later on. So, and just a whole lot of life experience that you miss out on. But it also shaped me in a way where that confinement changed my life for the better also. And when I discovered chiropractic at 16 years old, when my brother-in-law prodded me for over a year to go see a chiropractor. And at that time, chiropractic was illegal in New York. And our first building on the Sherman campus is named the Scanlon Building because the husband and wife, the husband, both chiropractors, he served a year in the big prison in New York with the toughest criminals of all. And she served 6 months in a women's prison just because they were chiropractors. And it was a badge of courage to go to jail. For over 3,000 chiropractors served jail time because they were chiropractors, and to open it up to the public. But I didn't think that chiropractic could help a heart murmur. I didn't think anything would change a bad valve in a heart. And so, but after just to stop his bothering me, my brother-in-law, I decided to go to the chiropractor. And I was amazed that the first thing he did not do was to take out a stethoscope and listen to my heart. And he just told me the big idea of chiropractic, that it's an aid to the body running itself. Not that you would be cured necessarily, depending on what your problem was, but that the body is a whole entity, and it's like a super big orchestra with hundreds of thousands of parts working together to give harmony. And if there's something wrong in the nervous system due to a misaligned vertebra, you're always better off without a subluxation, always. So I got into chiropractic care, and I didn't get any miracle. And but I did notice the first year that I had not been in the hospital again. I'm 16 years old, but usually every year or so I was back in the hospital. So, but the main thing that kept me going to the chiropractor, I said there was two things. Chiropractic made a lot of sense to me, that health comes from within, and it's nothing mystical about it. But the second thing that was important to me, my chiropractor allowed me to pay what I could afford. And later on, I learned about family health care and getting the entire family getting checked. Not everyone needs an adjustment. Not every patient needs an adjustment on every visit. But when they do need an adjustment, it's got to be affordable. And there is insurance that covers, they say it covers chiropractic, but only when you're performing medical procedures. And you can't put down that you found a vertebra misaligned and you adjusted it. You have to say, no, wait a second, I found a vertebra misaligned causing sciatica, and I treated the sciatica by giving an adjustment. So, and so it's really a medical practice that they're paying for, not a chiropractic practice. So there's two main big things that about chiropractic, that not everybody has a subluxation, but everyone should get their spines checked for subluxation. And to see mother and dads coming in to get their spines and leaving the children at home is just terrible. So I had a practice. When I started in practice, I followed the New York procedure when chiropractic was illegal, just accepting donations for the care. And I wanted family care. I stressed family care. I'd say 50% of my patients were under family care. So I had a large practice. There's a low per patient fee, but I loved practicing chiropractic. And so that's the way I got started. When I said to my chiropractor that I was interested in studying chiropractic, he said, well, there's 3 colleges within Mount Vernon where we lived. I was from New York. And he says, they're good schools if you'd like to go. But I went to a great chiropractic school here in New York. He says, oh, that's wonderful. So, but now if you really want the best, he says, I would recommend Palmer College. He says, and I did postgraduate work there at Palmer. And he said, that is something special. I was, of course, if I'm going to be a chiropractor, I want the best. I don't know what that word means, and I don't even know where Davenport is. So we went out to Palmer, and I was glad he said that to me, because the specialty of what Palmer had to offer was worth making that extra effort. Where I could have gone home, because I went to New York University and I was just traveling from my home every day to Greenwich Village. So to go into the city would be no different than that. But I was glad I made the change. That changed my life.
So let me ask you a follow-up to that. Going to Davenport, Iowa, what was the experience like being around BJ Palmer?
Well, going from New York University, which is really, it was a converted thing from a factory, but it was a tall building and a nice on the streets of with the parks there in Greenwich Village. But it was a shock going to Davenport, and especially going into the building and seeing all these animal heads on the walls and these gardens and the epigrams written on chimneys and behind staircases. It was a shock. But when BJ called us in and spoke to us, it was something very, very great for me. It was transforming. Now, not for every student. Some students hated BJ, but I loved him, and I just appreciated the Palmer education.
So I think I'm going to skip forward in a couple of the questions that I have sent out for you, but I'm really curious who some of your mentors were. Like, who inspired you to become the chiropractor? Like, did you have any other people that were your inspiration in chiropractic, or was it just your brother-in-law?
My who?
Your brother-in-law, the one that told you to go see a chiropractor.
He was, and he was a very, very successful industrialist. And when he came out to my graduation, I told my students, or not my students, but my fellow students, I said, now when he comes here, he's going to say he gets excited about things. And he was excited about chiropractic, and he'll say that he's going to sell his business and come out and be a chiropractor, but he probably won't. And that's just exactly what took place. But he was always excited about, he was in World War II. And after he came out and was in business and being quite successful, he developed migraine headaches. And during the Korean War, he was called back. And he really bragged that they put him in Bethesda Hospital for his headaches. And they said, they could produce a headache, a migraine right on me. He said, they could do that. He said, they couldn't stop it once it started, but they could start it. But finally, he got a discharge from there. And it was not to avoid service. Then his friends took him to a chiropractor, almost against his will, and got an adjustment, and that was the end of headaches. But I can remember him laying out at the house and the medical doctor coming over. They made house calls frequently and easily, and giving him shots, and he'd go to sleep. The next day, if he woke up with headaches, he'd be going back to the physician, Oh, wait till he finally got over them. So anyway, I like Davenport, but I didn't have many mentors. My big mentor was my chiropractor as a human being first, and as a chiropractor second. And after, I don't know, we made friends, and most of the medical doctors and chiropractors and dentists practiced out of their homes. First floor was the practice, upstairs they lived. And so I was invited into his home, and he'd always come up 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night, and just sit in the chair and look so happy and so excited. I said, that feeling, that look on his face was enticing to me. How could you be so tired all day in the office and come up and be so happy and with your day? And I think that was an influence on me also. He loved me.
Yeah, I think being around service-minded professionals, everybody should experience that. Everybody should experience somebody that loves what they do. And I think it's really cool that you got a chance to experience that from your chiropractor.
I had to get through to the patients that I don't mind house calls. I don't mind being called up in the middle of the night. Call me anytime you need me, 7 days a week. And the weekends were sometimes the hardest days to get through. And I'd go down I had an off-street parking in front of my clinic built for chiropractic. And on Sundays, and sometimes I'd be so restless. Let me go down, park my car in front of my office, and they'll start coming in.
Yeah, it's amazing. This profession always impresses me what it's done for so many people. And hearing your story, I'm sure that other people are going to listen to this and have more of a spirit for service of the profession. I know you've been a part of Sherman College since the inception. Why Sherman? Can you tell us the big why behind making the college out in the middle of Spartanburg, South Carolina?
Yes. Well, when I was at Palmer, I liked chiropractic. I was excited about it as a patient. But when I was in college, and my daughter said the same thing to me, she said, "Dad, you never told us about chiropractic." Not till I went to Sherman College. Well, I couldn't sit you down every day for a couple hours and tell you more about chiropractic. She had the big idea. She wanted to be a chiropractor. And so when you went to Palmer, it just grew on you. The more you knew, the more you wanted to know. But I was in my third year at Palmer. For the first time, Dr. Lyle Sherman, he was the assistant director of the B.J. Palmer Chiropractic Research Center, and BJ was the director. But BJ spent his winters in Sarasota, Florida, and he traveled much of the year. So Dr. Sherman was mainly in charge of the research center, I would say, and especially when I was there, BJ was older. And Dr. Sherman said to me, he said, I wanted to go into practice. But BJ said, right at that time, he said, the war broke out. And he says, most of our faculty and so on are leaving. Would you please stay till after the war, World War II? So I stayed. And then after that, I said, well, good, now I can go into practice. And he said, well, would you stay until after the GIs get through here? We're so busy with all the GIs coming back and the faculty is scant and so on. So Dr. Sherman stayed. Finally, his children were getting ready to go to college, and one was coming here to Spartanburg, South Carolina to go to college. And he said, I told BJ, I just had to make a better living to afford sending two daughters to college. So I finally said, I'm resigning. But he gave a lecture to our class that year. And he made a demonstration and showed pictures of the demonstration that was so fantastic. As I've been in this college for 3 years now, I'm an intern. And it was something that blew my mind about how difficult it is to get onto an atlas vertebra. And he had a metal rod that he pressed up against the mastoid, and they turned the head to a certain angle and took a picture. And the mastoid just about covers the atlas vertebra. So then he showed how you can reach the Atlas in a special way. And so then I asked him, could we come to his home or such? Could I meet with him sometime? I wanted to know more about this. He's yes, after 9 o'clock at night, he practiced too at night, come to my home. And there was 3 of us that went to his office. And then he took x-rays on some of us and did that mastoid x-ray again to show us and talked. And then after everyone was leaving, I said, could I come back sometime? I have more questions for you. So after going back about 3 or 4 times, we became pretty close friends. And I was there quite often to see Dr. Sherman. And then he was just getting ready to build his clinic in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I asked him, could I become an associate of his? I just wanted to learn more about chiropractic. And he said he wouldn't have enough patience for 2 doctors. I said, you don't even have to pay me, but just keep me alive. And but he said, not right now. Later on, he offered me to come, but my practice was established in a nearby town. And I was planning to practice in New York, but I said, no, I've got to practice near him. And I know many people were taking practice success courses, and I think they can be very helpful. But I felt like if you correct a subluxation, what more do you have to know? There's not much more to know about. Just be nice to people and have a clean office and do your work. So I never took a course in that way. And I started during the Eisenhower recession. And I would just mention, as far as getting started, I had the box on the wall, the same as my chiropractor had, and took and encouraged families to be patients. And let's say I lost my train of thought, but anyway, I'd say about being affordable, but you have to be affordable. And I went to visit 2 of the chiropractors that practiced in my hometown. And I went there and told them I was new and I was coming to town. And some of them told me how, several chiropractors had come to town, but there wasn't enough for 3 chiropractors. So when I left, I said to my wife, I wonder which one is going to be leaving because I know I'm going to be there. And I know there was a Salvation Army up the street from where I was, and I joined the JCs. And the captain from the Salvation Army was a member of the JCs. And as you have a lot of poor people there, they pay whatever they could afford. I do the same thing. I take the x-rays, everything's included. Just pay whatever they could afford. And but send those people down to my office, and I'll be glad to take care of them. So he started sending people, and I started getting very busy, not making a great deal of money, but getting busy. My wife was working in the hospital, and we wanted to start a family, but we said we'd delay that a couple of years, so my practice took off. So in the meantime, I had that principle: people go where people go because people go where people go. And I said, if I could get some people coming to me and fill my office. And I heard how Southerners didn't like Catholics. They thought I was Catholic, and they didn't like Yankees, and so on. It wasn't that way at all. They were very kind to me and very generous. And I met some great people in town. And Dr. Sherman told me, because he was there in Spartanburg, 20 miles away, and I could send my problem cases to him. And sometimes I'd have problem adjusting a patient, getting them cleared out. And they'd say, well, Doc, I'm just feeling great since you've been taking care of me. I said, well, I'm happy with that, but I'm not pleased that there's still signs of subluxation there. And we would go down, and Dr. Sherman would never adjust the patient. He'd always have me do it. And the other thing was he never took a fee. I would say, you take the fee, I just enjoyed getting the education. And he said, no, I'm not going to take a fee. But he taught me a great deal on chiropractic. And that's why we named the college after him, the Sherman College, because of his generosity to me. And he's a very humble person and never very wealthy either. If he found a patient with a problem, he'd take the whole day or take several hours trying to solve the problem. And he didn't have a huge practice down here. He was in semi-retirement anyway, but just a fine, fine person. And to me and to everybody. So we named the school after him.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. You know, hearing the story about how grassroots chiropractic is and how you were able to build a practice and start a family and make friendship within this profession, I think that's a huge testimony to so many people that will listen to this episode. You know, I just spoke at the Michigan Chiropractic Association, and I urged everybody in that group to make a list of all the chiropractors in their town and reach out to them and become friends with them, and, you know, get gatherings going and do philosophy talks, and, you know, take each one out individually and grab coffee or lunch, or build the community from chiropractic instead of thinking that everybody's against each other or everyone's competition. I left them with, you guys are more alike than you're different. Start treating each other well so the profession can do better. And go ahead.
But anyway, I didn't like going to state association meetings. They were always they spent a lot of time discussing why people didn't show up at state association meetings, and rather negative, I found. And I told Dr. Sherman, because he would drive from Spartanburg down to Columbia 100 miles and say, Tom, do you want to go? I said, they bring me down. I want to stay, you know. I enjoy being with my patients. He says, but you owe something. Every chiropractor owes something to their community and something to their profession. And he said, you're not really paying your chiropractic dues if you're not attending association meetings. And I did question myself, do I do this because I don't want to lose his friendship? or do I do it because it makes sense? But I did join the association, got deep enough. It's like this, you know, you get deep enough into it to appreciate it, or get out of it far enough so you could quit criticizing it. Mm-hmm. So I find out the importance of the association, but I learned that from Dr. Sherman too.
Yeah, I think the community is important. We have to support each other. And that's really a big part of why I do this show also, is because I'm sure that over your time of your career, you've noticed that there's been a lot of division within chiropractic. And what we've done is we've invited everyone in. If you went to Sherman, perfect. We'll interview you. If you practice a different technique, perfect. We'll interview you. If you are with a coaching group that not everybody agrees with, doesn't matter. We'll still interview you. So what I've done is I've torn down all the walls of confusion and you know, lack of connection. And that's what Chiro Hustle has done over the years, is actually connected the profession and allowed everybody to have a platform to share their truth of why they became a chiropractor and why they love this profession so much. So I think that that's super powerful what you just shared.
Very good. You know, D.D. Palmer wrote a great deal about chiropractic, and BJ did the same thing. They only succeeded to a very small degree, but it takes, I think, another 100 years, things are going to change. It's going to take that, at least that long, for us to get back. Dentists started out doing lancing, where they bleed the patient, and they did many, many things. They finally settled in on taking care of the teeth. But what really hurt me inside that that chiropractic was so divided. And if you look at ophthalmologists or obstetricians, they have different techniques of taking care of patients. An obstetrician does, but I think I was mentioning that to you earlier about how they have 4 different ways of doing a hysterectomy. An orthopedist who does hip surgeries, and he may only do, or she may only do hip surgeries, but some do them anteriorly, some do them posteriorly. So the technique, I don't get into technique battles. I have my favorite technique, but that's beside the point. But I do think that every profession is defined by its mission. And that bothers me, that enough chiropractors don't understand that mission is so important. And if you ask most chiropractors, what is the mission? They describe it on such a high level of abstraction that it could be anything. They say, well, it's take care of people's health. Well, there's a lot of people that take care of people's health. What area of health do you take care of? And to me, the mission of chiropractic is to contribute to health. Is to contribute to health through the location and analysis and correction of vertebral subluxation. That's it. And when you look in an encyclopedia or anything else, I think, but there are 6 really divisions within ophthalmology. And someone says, well, I'm in ophthalmology. Yeah, but what kind of ophthalmology are you? Which one of the 6? Total divisions. And someone says, well, look, I'm just, I'm a retinologist, or there, some other division within, I only take care of retina. Like a obstetrician says, look, how's a baby doing? Well, you have to ask a pediatrician. I'm the obstetrician. And I have things with my personal family that we use a lot of different things in addition to chiropractic. We try to use as little chiropractic as possible and as little of any invasive force as possible. But I haven't seen a physician, and I'm 91 years old now, and I haven't seen a physician since I became a chiropractic patient. That was when I was in high school. I haven't missed a day of work since then. So that's all that I need. But I deal in nutrition myself and with my home. And I tell patients that nutrition and many, many things, some mind hygiene and other things are so important, but I don't deal with them. I only deal with the spine.
There's a few more topics I want to touch on with you as we chat today and do this interview. One of those things is you were a sick kid, and you described that earlier in the introduction to why you got into chiropractic, and you talked about being hospitalized and things. I guess what I would like to discuss next is why is it important for kids to get chiropractic?
Oh, it's very, very important. But they shouldn't get adjustments on symptoms. They should get adjustments on subluxations. And because the body, they may throw up one night, they may run a fever, but they may not need. I've seen a child with a fever 106, and they didn't need it, and they just came out of it without anything. So it should be that they may feel great and be subluxated, and that's going to be a future problem, and so they should be checked. And that's why I like family care, and I would urge chiropractors to get into family care. And if they don't know how to care for babies, get with a chiropractor who does know how to take care of infants. But I would not touch an infant unless I knew what I was doing. And I think that infants should be checked and should have chiropractic care.
Well, I think that those are all really important, and that kind of leads me into more advice from you for our audience. Let's talk about the idea of students, because I know that you're at Sherman College today. What advice would you give to new graduates about how to build a practice?
Well, I think that, again, first of all, I don't have insurance. My daughter's a chiropractor. She doesn't take insurance cases. But I will sit down, and if one's an engineer and one's a school teacher, and they have two children, you say, well, they can make enough money. They can pay a reasonable fee. But I had a monthly care plan, whether it be one individual or a family. And it varied according to their ability to pay. And I would just tell them, look, I'd like you to pay once a month. Go home and think about it. And I'd like to take care of your family. Probably I was already taking care of a family. But you have mom and dad and a couple of children. Think of what can you pay per month. And they get all the care. You don't have to worry if they need new x-rays or whatever. I don't x-ray that often. But I do take initial x-rays, and if there's something unusual come up in the meantime, I may take another x-ray. Or if they're a child, if they change in age, I don't take x-rays on infants general, unless there's some reason to. But I say take care of people and take care of lots of people, be of service, but let them know what you want, and let them know too that you expect them to refer patients and gather up your patients into one thing. And I think that most patients, if you act professionally, you gather your patients into one place. For me, I was a member of JC's, I was a member of the Lions Club. I was an executive I finally became county chairman for the Boy Scout program. I advertised in the newspaper, and there was a little college in Gaffney, and they had classical music, and they gave out a program, and I had my name, and there's other doctors and lawyers and so on that had their names in the program. But I got out and met people, and I always sent notes to people. I thanked patients for coming to my practice. I knew there were other good chiropractors available, and that they chose me. I would be honored and try to do my best for them. So I recognize the patients and so on, and advertise in every way possible.
Yeah, there's a BJ quote that I really love is early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. And I think that it is important. I tell everybody that listens to me that you have to go out and touch your community. You have to get involved. You should join the business networking groups. You should join the Chamber of Commerce. You should learn how to be a public speaker and join Toastmasters. You should support the local sports teams. I think that there's a lot that you could do with like the community style events, like going to farmers markets and going to the health fairs and going to the expos and going to all the things that gives you a chance to go out and meet people. Because honestly, people want today, in today's economy, they want to go meet people that they build a relationship with. They want to build a community. They want to be a part of something. And if you're the one that's going to allow them to come in and you're going to go meet them where they are, they want that more than ever.
I did lay lectures too, but you have to, like you said, you have to step out of your comfort zone and meet the people. And then they have a chiropractic need. I remember having an open house time when we opened, and in my reception room, I had folding chairs and a folding table with a lamp on it. I started with hardly anything. And 3 years later, I don't know, good luck always came to me. A person came and said, I'd like to build you a clinic. I can't afford it. He said, oh, I know you can. And he had to show, and Bill Blair in Texas, a chiropractor, I didn't even know who Bill Blair was, but I looked in the ICA journal and there was Clinic of the Month. And I liked that facade on the front. And I showed him that. And he's built a 2,000 square foot clinic for me. My practice more than quadrupled in 1 year just from a new clinic. And I could move around the clinic faster and easier, and still a patient with 3 adjusting rooms. And that's very true. You have to be out there. And you're not comfortable in the beginning. I didn't like going to chiropractic meetings. They were negative to me. But I finally got used to it. And things changed.
Well, I think all this is good, very, very important foundational information for people to understand how to build a practice and how to serve your communities. I kind of want to ask you, because you've been in the profession, how many years have you been a part of chiropractic?
Now,
Yes.
well, I started in 1957. That's right, 1957.
So from 1957 onward, you've been a part of this profession for most of your life.
Only practiced 15 years. I
Okay.
practiced some after hours and so on, but after a while, the school was so consuming that it took most of my time, all my time.
So let's look into the future a little bit if we can. Where do you see the profession going in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's in our hands. Like the person, I guess you heard the story about the person wanted to fool his neighbor. He had a bird in his hand, and if he said, is a bird living or dead? And he said, if he says living, I'll crush it so it's dead. And if he said dead, I'll show him it's alive. And he asked the neighbor or the person, the wise man in the town, is this bird living or dead? And he said, it's in your hands. And I'm concerned. Some colleges today do not teach the spine at all. National College is one of them. LACC is one of them. There's 4 or 5 colleges that don't associate chiropractic with the spine, period. And that will kill the profession unless we come to focus on the profession. And I think another thing too, something that helped me, I did not take a practice building seminar, but I studied under a number of chiropractors, but particularly Dr. Sherman and Dr. Bill Blair. Those two, I learned my chiropractic, and I went to them frequently. And I would not have someone showing a subluxation and let it go uncorrected. I would get them, and I did more referral and some low back work. I do low back work too, but some work I wouldn't get. I'd send them, I knew someone that was good in low back work. And I just cared about the patient, and I want the patient to have a good chiropractic experience. But you have to, if you're not correcting subluxations, nothing happened. In the beginning, I thought I'd take everybody who came to me. If I found a subluxation, I'd correct it. A couple people, I said, no, I don't want to accept you because I don't need a death in my office, just starting out practice. And they came back, one woman particularly with her husband, she came back, would I please try? I said, I'll try, but don't blame, I don't want you with your husband, you know you're near death. And we took care of her. She lived 20 years later, she's alive. And I had several of those cases. So I changed my attitude and I said, I'll accept everybody. And if I don't find a subluxation on that day, I'll say, you're not subluxated today, you may be next month. You know, you want to come back occasionally and get your spine checked, but you're not going to get an adjustment. And I had things of that nature happen, but I accept everybody. And if they don't have a subluxation, I don't adjust them. And I don't believe a patient subluxated every visit. I just don't. That's not the way I grew up in chiropractic. I don't go by symptoms at all.
Well, Dr. Thom, I know we've gone over a little bit on our time that we discussed that we we're going to do the interview for, so I really appreciate you extending your time out today. At this juncture, I always allow for if there's something I didn't ask you that you wanted to touch on, and then I'd like to ask if people wanted to get in touch with you or connect with Sherman College, where we can send them to.
You want me to connect with you?
Well, I was my point of that statement was if there was anything I didn't ask you that you want to discuss today before we call it a day.
You have my email address. I'm always available. Okay. I have yours.
Awesome. So
covered a good bit.
Well, I'll close out then, and I'll let people know that if you want to learn more about Sherman College, go to sherman.edu and reach out to the school, consider going out there for a weekend event and learning about the college. And I know you guys do a great deal of hosting people that are considering going to chiropractic school. I always recommend every student that talks to me or anybody that is curious about chiropractic education, I always recommend everyone that talks to me to go to Sherman College. So at that point, go to sherman.edu to learn all you need to do to know about Sherman College. And if you need to reach out to Thom, like he said, I have his email. And if anybody is curious more about Thom's story, please reach out to me. And with that, Dr. Thom Gelardi, thanks for being our guest today. Your episode number 669 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, the stories are super valuable, and I'm sure everybody that watches this is just going to learn so much more about the history of chiropractic for time to come. So with that being said, I'm going to close out by telling you guys, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. See you guys in the next interview. Bye for now, Dr. Thom.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.